So, in order to properly prepare for an ayahuasca ceremony, particularly a Shipibo style ayahuasca ceremony, 1 week before ceremony starts, you need to complete a pre-ceremonial dieta. Now, the word dieta is just the Spanish word for diet. So when we hear the word diet, we often think about food, and it's true. On one level, the pre-ceremonial dieta is about food, but it actually goes much deeper than that. It's about energy. And this is important because a Shipibo style ayahuasca ceremony is all about energy management. And one thing we know about our universe is that everything is energy, right? Food is energy, emotions are energy, trauma is energy. Even physical objects, when you break them down to their most basic building blocks, they are nothing more than molecules vibrating at a very specific frequency. And this is why the pre-ceremonial dieta is so important, because certain foods, certain substances, and even certain activities can carry heavy energies. And these heavy or dark energies can block the medicine, they can dull your senses, and they can even distract you from having a full experience. Now, when you hear the word dark or heavy energies, this is not something to necessarily be afraid of, but like I said, a Shipibo style ayahuasca ceremony is all about energy management. And in particularly, it's about removing darker or heavy energies that are preventing your true light from shining. But we'll get into that in a little bit more detail here in a second. So let's first look at what the pre-ceremonial dieta consists of. So for at least 7 days, ideally even up to 10 days, you want to avoid alcohol and all recreational drugs, including cannabis. Now, this comes as a surprise to some people because they think, oh, well, ayahuasca is a plant medicine, cannabis is a plant medicine, it should be okay. Well, that's a whole deep rabbit hole that we can go down in possibly another video, but just know that ayahuasca and cannabis or marijuana do not get along. Cannabis is a very strong, powerful feminine energy, and so is ayahuasca. And I like to call it the queen bee syndrome, where two powerful females do not get along. But cannabis is a very sticky, heavy energy. Alcohol is also called spirits, usually associated with dark energies. Other things to avoid are pork and red meat. And it's interesting when it comes to pork, because now that I'm as far along on my diet, or now that I'm as far along in my process as I am, it's been 3-4 years since I've had any pork, and I will probably never eat it again. Pork is a very interesting one, and I think there's a reason why a lot of religions do not consume pork. It seems to be a very heavy and dark energy. You're also supposed to avoid salt, which is a very weird one, because salt, as you know, or you should know, is an essential mineral, and it is responsible for so many things like hydration and digestion and muscle function. So going without salt is not necessarily healthy. See, in general, this pre-ceremonial diet I would consider a relatively healthy way to eat, although I personally believe that red meat is good for you. But with the removal of salt, you may feel dehydrated, you may have some muscle cramps, you may get a little lightheaded. And so I've always wondered, why no salt? While there are some theories out there like salt is very grounding and the medicine is trying to open you up, which seems somewhat plausible, but I don't necessarily buy that one. From my own experience, having gone a year without salt, I think the whole aspect of not having salt is, one, because it sucks, and this makes this preparation diet a little bit more of a sacrifice. But I also think it's because a lack of salt temporarily weakens our body. And I've talked about this many times, but if you are going to be the best version of yourself, or at least a better version of yourself, you will be strong physically, mentally, and spiritually. Well, the lack of salt actually makes you physically weaker. So that kind of puts you out of balance temporarily. If your body is weaker temporarily, your body becomes stronger spiritually and mentally to overcompensate. It's almost like the people who are blind and their hearing becomes heightened. Other things to avoid are caffeine, fermented or processed foods, spicy or greasy foods. So basically, you don't want to eat any junk food. Also, sex and sexual stimulus, which is another one that people have a lot of questions about. Like, why can I not have sex? Does that mean sex is bad? Well, the short answer is no, it's not. But also, not all sex is created equal, right? Even in the best possible scenario, let's say you're in a loving, committed relationship, sex is an intertangling and a merging of two energy bodies. And so your energy becomes entangled and entwined in the other person's energy. And when you're coming into ceremony, we are trying to work on your energetic body and get to your issues and traumas and energy blockages. And if you come into ceremony having just had sex, then there's going to be a lot of effort spent on removing the other person's energy off of you. And that could take one, maybe two ceremonies. And so you're essentially wasting time before you even get to start cleaning your energy. And then, of course, there's the worst case scenario where you have random sex. See, having gone on this journey, I've completely changed my views on sex because you take on all that person's stuff, even if just temporarily. So if you don't know a person very well, sure, maybe they're clean physically, but they may be a complete mess energetically. And if this is a consistent pattern, then you have a lot of outside energies affecting your own internal energy. So I'm not here to lecture you or tell you what you can and cannot do. I'm just saying that from an energetic standpoint, I do encourage you and urge you to look at sex from a different perspective, because it is much more than just something that feels good. Now, some other things that you should avoid, and a lot of this is my own personal recommendation from just what I've seen, is that you should avoid as much external stimulus as possible, particularly triggering stimulus. Things like news or social media or divisive politics or scary movies or low vibrational music, right? These things can have a big impact on our overall well-being. And so the more that you can avoid these things and the cleaner you can arrive to ceremony, the better outcome you will have. So that's what to avoid. So what can you have? And it's pretty simple. You just want to eat clean, simple, light foods. Some fish, some chicken, fresh vegetables, fruits, rice, potatoes, plantains. Drink a lot of water, drink tea, and try to unplug and disconnect from the matrix as much as possible before attending ceremony, and you're going to be good. And look, I know we are all busy and completely unplugging is almost impossible, but ceremony is just like anything you do. And the more pre-work you can do before you arrive, the chances of you having a good outcome are significantly increased. So those are the details about the diet. Let's talk about the why or the purpose. And I already talked a little bit about this. You were essentially pre-cleaning your energetic body before you arrive. See, we do multiple night ceremonies, oftentimes 3 nights in a row. And there's a reason for that, because our energetic body is a lot like an onion. There's a surface layer and there are deeper layers under that surface layer. And it can take many nights to remove a lot of these darker or heavy energies. And think about it like this. Sometimes you've had bad habits, bad mental problems, or traumas that have been festering for 20, 30, maybe even 40 years before you've really addressed them. Those are not going to be cleaned out necessarily in 1 night or 2 nights or even 3 nights. It's going to take a while, but that's what you come to ceremony for, is to get those big energies removed. And if you do not pay attention to the dieta, then you could have the whole weekend just working on cleaning out drug energy, cannabis energy, sex energy, and divisive politics energy. So that's the main reason for the diet. The second reason is it's a sacrifice, and it shows Mother Ayahuasca that you are here and you are showing up and you are serious about this work. The diet, while not overly hard, it's definitely not easy. You will quickly realize how much you miss salt, how hard it is to cook without spices or seasoning or oil, and then of course cutting out caffeine or your coffee habit. It's not easy. It's a sacrifice, but you will be rewarded for that sacrifice. Think of it as your price of admission. But I like the fact that there's actually a pre-ceremonial dieta that is required before attending ceremony, because it's a good reminder that while ceremony can be and most likely will be a huge part of your journey, it is still only one part of your journey. From the moment we are born, from the moment we spontaneously appear into this universe, our journey begins. And our journey does not stop until the lights go out. While ceremony is very important, in fact, it's a huge part of my life, it's not the end all be all. The work you do before ceremony and the work you do after ceremony are just as important, if not more important. Remember, we are born as pure piles of raw potential. And a big part of our journey is to start to unlock that potential, to strip away all the things that do not serve us. This is the true meaning of alchemy. This is all about changing lead into gold. Lead represents our initial, unrefined self, and gold represents a higher manifestation of ourself. And the only way to turn lead into gold is to remove all the things about ourselves that are not in alignment with our higher being. And that is what the journey is about. And that is what you should be working on every single day. So if you feel called to sit in ceremony, I encourage you to start your work now. I don't mean you have to start the dieta now, but you can start by getting your health in check. You can exercise, you can meditate, you can practice gratitude, and you can start being very intentional about all the energies you consume. See, never forget, we have a small window of opportunity to unlock our potential. And the truth is, we really don't have a whole lot of time to waste. As they say, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is right now. See you on the other side.